All right, welcome to another Bible Stroll. Thank you for joining. Glad that you could join us today. This is recorded the day after Father's Day, so happy Father's Day to all the fathers out there. And let's start with a word of prayer. Lord, we thank you for this day. Thank you for allowing us to see another day that you made. And thank you for blessing and keeping us. Thank you for your wisdom, your knowledge, and your understanding. God, we ask that you would increase that on today as we go through your word. Help us to be able to apply it to our own lives and to be able to share with others. And Lord, help us to be the men and women of God that you called us to be. It's in Jesus' name we pray. Amen. Amen. So last time we left off in First Kings chapter 4, and we did not read 1 through 19. That was for your homework. We're going to jump into First Kings chapter 4, verse 20. All right. And we are still in Solomon's rule. And so here we go. Judah and Israel were as many as the sand by the sea. Remember the promise that was given to Abraham when God told him that his descendants would be what? As numerous as the sands of the sea. So, sand by the sea, excuse me. So this is hearkening back to that promise to Abraham that Judah and Israel are as many as the sand by the sea. We also notice that the kingdoms are not quite unified because we see it says Judah and Israel. And if you remember from David's reign, Israel was the northern kingdom, and those are the tribes that were under the northern kingdom. And then Judah was the southern kingdom. And so David united them, and we see Solomon has done the same thing, but you see this distinction, right? That distinction is still there between Judah and Israel, and it will continue. We'll see how that plays later on. But at any rate, they are united, and it says, look, and they ate and drank and were happy. So this is a very short way of saying that the land experienced great prosperity. Everybody had enough. There was no lack. And in fact, in the previous verses, each area had to bring Solomon a tribute. We're going to go into that a little bit more. So there was definitely plenty, and Solomon was the ruler of this over this plentifulness. All right, verse 21. Solomon ruled over all the kingdoms from the Euphrates to the land of the Philistines and to the border of Egypt. They brought tribute and served Solomon all the days of his life. Solomon's provision for one day, again, this is one day, was 30 cores of fine flour. Now, a core is 220 liters. So 6,600 liters of fine flour, right? And 60 cores, so double that, of meal. 10 fat oxen and 20 pasture-fed cattle, 100 sheep, besides deer, gazelles, roebucks. We believe roebucks are a type of deer, and fattened fowl like geese or duck, right? So think about that. That's one day. That's just one day for Solomon, right? Um, so that you can think about that. All right. So the land was able to give him that every single day, which is wild, right? Verse 24, for he had dominion over all the region west of the Euphrates from Tipsah to Gaza. And remember, this Gaza is the same Gaza that we are talking about today, all right, in today's time. Over all the kings west of the Euphrates, and he had peace on all sides around him. And Judah and Israel lived in safety, from Dan even to Beersheba, every man under his vine and under his fig tree, all the days of Solomon. Solomon also had 40,000 stalls of horses for his chariots and 12,000 horsemen. So this is a lot of he had a lot. I mean, we're not even going to continue to delve into that because he just had a lot, right? And those officers supplied provisions for King Solomon, and for all who came to King Solomon's table, each one in his month, they let nothing be lacking. Barley also and straw for the horses, and swift steeds they brought to the place where it was required, each according to his duty. So in verses 1 to 19, there were 12 officers that were required to bring a tribute to Solomon. So this is kind of giving you more detail about that. Verse 29. And God gave Solomon wisdom and understanding beyond measure and breadth of mind like the sand on the seashore. So not only is the population like the sand on the seashore, but now we see Solomon's wisdom is like the sand on the seashore. So it is innumerable, right? Remember God's promise to Solomon, because when God came to him in a dream, he said, because you didn't ask for money or revenge on your enemies or these other things, he said, I'm going to give you all that, and I'm going to give you wisdom so that there'll be no one like you before you or after you, right? In wisdom. All right. In verse 30, so that Solomon's wisdom surpassed the wisdom of all the people of the East and all the wisdom of Egypt. Interestingly enough, this wisdom of the East, right, is going to come into play later on, especially when we talk about Daniel, because Daniel, and when there's the exile, spoiler alert, the Israelites don't do what they're supposed to do, and they get exiled. They get exiled to Babylon. Babylon is modern day Iraq. When they go to the East, right, we see that Daniel is going to be a prominent figure there. And this links us to Jesus, because when Jesus is born in Bethlehem, there are wise men that come from the East, wise men from the East that come after his birth. It takes him about 2 years to get there. He's about 2 years old. And so we see this whole link, you see the strand, right? This is Solomon is wiser than everyone from the East and Egypt. And we see here that is, we're going to see those wise men from the East come and pay homage to the one who is wisdom, right? All right. And verse 31, for he was wiser than all other men, wiser than Ethan the Ezrahite, and Heman, Calcol, and Darda, the sons of Mahol, and his fame was in all the surrounding areas. And he also spoke 3,000 proverbs, and his songs were 1,005. And so we see here this 3,000 proverbs. So we remember Solomon had a lot of proverbs, right? That he wrote the bulk of the book of Proverbs. Not every single proverbs is Solomon's, but he wrote the bulk of them. He also had the Song of Solomon, or Song of Songs, which is also his, right? So remember, the Song of Songs is not just a book, but they're songs, right? They're songs that he's writing to his lover, right? So these are all things, all the wisdom, right? So you just think about David on steroids, right? He's got David had these writings, he had songs, but now Solomon's taking it to another level. Okay. Verse 33, he spoke of trees, from the cedar that is in Lebanon to the hyssop that grows out of the wall. He spoke also of beasts and of birds and of reptiles and of fish. And people of all nations came to hear the wisdom of Solomon, and from all the kings of the earth who had heard of his wisdom. Verse chapter 5. Now Hiram, king of Tyre, sent his servants to Solomon when he heard that they had anointed him king in place of his father. For Hiram always loved David. Now, if you remember that in 2 Samuel chapter 5, that Hiram had supplied David with building materials. So carpenter, cedar, all kinds of things. Had supplied him with building materials to build him a house. And so this guy's like, hey, I helped your dad with building stuff. How can I help you with building? Right? What do you need built? He was like their days Lowe's home improvement. All right. He's like, I own Lowe's. All right. What do you need? What do you need to build? I got you. Right. Actually, probably better than Lowe's, but you get the idea. And Solomon sent word to Hiram, you know that David, my father, could not build a house for the name of the Lord his God because of the warfare with which his enemies surrounded him, until the Lord put them under the soles of his feet. But now the Lord my God has given me rest on every side. And that means obviously there's no more war. Solomon's not fighting anybody, right? There is neither adversary nor misfortune. And so I intend to build a house for the name of the Lord my God. As the Lord said to David my father, your son, whom I will set on your throne in your place, shall build the house for my name. And now, therefore, command that the cedars of Lebanon be cut for me, and my servants will join your servants, and I will pay you for every servant's wage, such wages as you set. For you know that there is no one among us who knows how to cut timber like the Sidonians. Okay, which this is interesting. If you want a quick archaeological kind of aside, these cedars of Lebanon are well known even to this day, and also the Sidonians were master builders and craftsmen, and they were archaeologically known to be such. So we see here that the Bible is just confirming what archaeologists confirm and what modern day folks know as well. Um, so, and verse 7, as soon as Hiram heard the words of Solomon, he rejoiced greatly and said, blessed be the Lord this day, who has given to David a wise son to be over this great people. And Hiram sent to Solomon, saying, I have heard the message that you have sent to me. I'm ready to do all you desire in the name of, in the matter, in the matter of cedar and cypress timber. My servant shall bring it down to the sea from Lebanon, and I will make it into rafts to go by sea to the place you direct. And I will have them broken up there, and you shall receive it. And you shall meet my wishes by providing food for my household. Now, this is very interesting because they're talking about how logging is done. And so this is how logging's been done for a long time. And here we see it, right? They would cut down the logs, they would bind them together as like rafts, and they would send them down the river. And then at the end of the river, somebody would grab them, gather them, pull them up on the shore, unbind them, and then take them to where they need to be. So this whole process is nothing new. We actually see this all the time here in the modern day. Now, maybe not today because most of the time folks would put it on a boat, right? But this method of logging was very widespread, even here in the Americas, where I am in the U.S. So very interesting, right? So verse 10. So Hiram supplied Solomon with all the timber of cedar and cypress that he desired. While Solomon gave Hiram 20,000 cores of wheat as food. Remember, a core is 220 liters, all right, for his household, and 20,000 cores of beaten oil. All right, and that beaten oil is most likely olive oil, right? Because that's how you get olive oil. You have to beat the tree, you have to beat it, you have to crush it, right, to get the oil. And so this was not inexpensive, right? Solomon did not take shortcuts in paying Hiram for his services, because 20,000 times 220 liters is a lot of oil, and it takes a lot of time and a lot of manpower to be able to get that amount of oil. Not even talking about the cores of wheat, right? And so this is each year, mind you. So it says this: Solomon gave this to Hiram year by year. So every year he was getting this. All right. And the Lord gave Solomon wisdom as he promised him, and there was peace between Hiram and Solomon, and the two of them made a treaty. King Solomon drafted forced labor out of all Israel, and the draft numbered 30,000 men. And this is so y- side note, you would think that this means that the Israelites were the ones who were drafted, but in chapter 9, and I'm skipping ahead a little bit, but in chapter 9, verses 15 to 22, it says that he did not enslave Israelites, but he drafted the laborers from the Amorites, the Hittites, the Perizzites, the Hivites, and the Jebusites who remained in the land. So if you remember back in David's time and those times beforehand, there were some deals and treaties that were made between these people that allowed them to stay there, but they had to provide labor, right? And so now Solomon is saying, you guys are going to be the ones who are going to be helping build this temple, right? Build this house for the Lord. Okay. Verse 14. And he sent them to Lebanon, 10,000 a month in shifts, They would be a month in Lebanon and 2 months at home. Adoniram was in charge of the draft. And we see him first in 2 Samuel chapter 20, verse 24. He was in charge of the forced labor back when David was king. So this guy had a knack for labor. All right. All right. So verse 15, Solomon also had 70,000 burden bearers and 80,000 stone cutters in the hill country. And these are like common laborers. These are folks that just carry stuff. They don't have to be that skilled. They just need to carry stuff. All right. And it says, besides Solomon's 3,300 chief officers who were over the work, who had charge of the people who carried on the work. At the king's command, they quarried out great costly stones in order to lay the foundation of the house with dressed stones. So Solomon's builders and Hiram's builders and the men of Gebo did the cutting and prepared the timber and the stone to build the house. And interestingly enough, there's still quarries in Israel to this day. I saw some when I was there a few years ago. What was that 4 years ago? Yeah, 4 years ago. And they're still quarrying. They still have the stones, and um, and so those stones are legendary because they are very dense, and they're hard to cut out. But once you get them out, they are substantial. They stay there, and you don't have to worry about them falling. Right. And so we see the current temple that has been built, that you see with the Dome of the Rock Mosque on it, and the that's in Jerusalem right now, was built by King Herod, right? But using similar stones, right? Those stones are crazy big. I think I showed you some pictures last time. Anyway, but they are still there, still in force, and that just kind of goes to show you the craftsmanship and the labor and all of the tools that were used to be able to build these things. And so to be able to build that large of a temple complex, and I mean, you see it in pictures. Most of you, if you haven't been to Israel, you may not grasp the size of the temple complex, but it is huge. I mean, it is absolutely huge. And then to see the foundations that it's set on really gives you an idea. But I mean, the stones are massive. They're probably as big as a house here in North Carolina. That's one stone. All right. So imagine quarrying that and moving that and all that stuff. But anyway, I digress. You didn't hear me. You didn't come to hear me talk about building. You came to hear here. You came to stroll through the Bible. So let's keep strolling. All right. We're in 1 Kings chapter 6. All right. In the 480th year of the people after the people of Israel came out of the land of Egypt, in the 4th year of Solomon's reign over Israel, in the month of Ziv, which is the 2nd month, he began to build the house of the Lord. And so I love this because now we have a concrete, a definite time frame for where we are right now. In the account, it has been 480 years since Israel came out of Egypt, and it took 480 years for a proper house or proper temple to be built for the Lord, right? Interestingly enough, right? Remember what we talk about? A generation was what, 40 years, right? So this is 120 generations after the Israelites came out of Egypt. So remember, they spent 40 years in the wilderness. So so anyway, and so this is 2nd month, right? So this is what we would call it. So here's the thing: the 2nd month we would call it February, but the Jewish calendar is based on the moon. It's a lunar calendar. Our calendar is not based on that. It's a Gregorian calendar. So I'm not going to get into all the details on the differences, but the first month, let's see. So Ziv would be the month of bloom, and Ziv would most likely be April, right? Most likely be April, March or April. It'd be when the flowers would be blooming. So it would not be February. It'd be most likely March or April. All right. Uh, so think about it. You want some time when it's not raining, when it's warm, but not too hot, right? To start building. Okay. Verse 2. The house that King Solomon built for the Lord was 60 cubits long. All right. And a cubit is a unit of measure. Now, it's interesting because sometimes the cubit, it depends on how it was used. But a cubit generally is 18 inches long. All right, generally, and I say generally because sometimes it depends on whether it's a royal cubit, a standard cubit, right, whatever, right. But just for most scholars believe that whenever you see cubit in the Bible, you're pretty good by just assuming it's 18 inches, which is a foot and a half. All right, so 60 cubits, right, is going to be 90 feet. Okay. So 90 feet. So the house of Solomon built for the Lord was 90 feet long, right? Let's see, 20 cubits wide, so it's 30 feet wide, and 30 cubits high, which is 45 feet high. Okay. So not a small place, but it's not a McMansion either, right? But it's pretty large. All right. And the vestibule in front of the nave of the house was 20 cubits long, equal to the width of the house, and 10 cubits deep in front of the house. And he made for the house windows with recessed frames. This is a very or latticed windows. So this is interesting because most of the houses at those times just had holes that were, square holes that were cut out. They were open, right? They didn't have windows in the sense, right? Especially not with frames. So this kind of shows, these little details show you how much care Solomon took with building the Lord's house. All right. He also built a great structure against the wall of the house, running around the walls of the house, both the nave and the inner sanctuary. And he made the side um, channel. He made side chambers, excuse me, all around. Right. So this word nave is let's see here. Is a word. It means palace or temple. Okay. Verse 6. The lowest story was 5 cubits broad, the middle one was 6 cubits broad, and the third one was 7 cubits broad. For around the outside of the house, he made offsets on the wall in order that the supporting beams should not be inserted into the walls of the house. When the house was built, it was stone prepared, is with stone prepared at the quarry, so that neither hammer nor axe nor any tool of iron was heard in the house while it was being built. So that's very interesting. They did all of the measuring and everything before they brought it. So it's almost like a prefab house, but they prefabbed stone and they quarried it away and then brought it, and it had to fit exactly perfectly because there he did not want any noise while the house was being built. All right. Uh and so the entrance for the lower story was on the south side of the house, and one went up by the stairs to the middle story, and from the middle story to the third. So he built the house and finished it, and he made the ceiling of the house of beams and planks of cedar. All right, that's kind of interesting because nowadays, you have the exposed beams. Like that's a real big thing with homes. I got exposed beams, like Solomon was doing that thousands of years ago. Right. All right. Uh, Now the word of the Lord came to Solomon, this is verse 11, concerning this house that you are building. If you will walk in my statutes and obey my rules and keep all my commandments and walk in them, then I will establish my word with you, which I spoke to David your father. And I will dwell among the children of Israel and will not forsake my people Israel. So Solomon built the house and finished it. All right. He lined the walls of the house on the inside with boards of cedar. From the floor of the house to the walls of the ceiling, he covered them on the inside with wood, and he covered the floor of the house with boards of cypress. He built 20 cubits of the rear of the house with boards of cedar from the floor to the walls, and he built this within as inner sanctuary as the most holy place. So if you remember the tent of meeting, and you had the holy place, and you had the most holy place, or the holy of holies, right? And so this is saying Solomon built this area for the most holy place, or the holy of holies. Okay. The house, that is the nave in front of the inner sanctuary, was 40 cubits long. The cedar within the house was carved in the form of gourds and open flowers. All was cedar. no stone was seen. So he built the house with stone, but then he covered it up with all wood. So when you walked in, you would not see any stone whatsoever, right? And then he decorated it. If you remember the tent of meeting, there were pomegranates on the curtain on the veil. They call it veil, but I call it curtain. But it's pomegranates on the wood and the golden lace and all that other stuff. If you remember all that, there's lots of decorations there in the tent of meeting, and so we see here Solomon is recreating that. Um, all right, where did I leave off? It said gourds and open flowers of cedar, verse 19. The inner sanctuary he prepared in the innermost part of the house to set there the ark of the covenant of the Lord. The inner sanctuary was 20 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 20 cubits high. And he overlaid it with pure gold. He also overlaid an altar of cedar, right? And Solomon overlaid the inside of the house with pure gold, and he drew chains of gold across in front of the inner sanctuary and overlaid it with gold. And he overlaid the whole house with gold until all the house was finished. Also, the whole altar that belonged to the inner sanctuary was overlaid with gold. So, get the picture. Built it with stone, covered it with wood, and then he overlaid the wood with gold, right? So everything is gold. This entire house, inside and out, was gold. If you were to touch God's house, it would be pure gold, right? You would not touch anything but gold. Okay. So imagine the spectacle of this bright, shining gold house, right? And so I want to take you a little bit into the future, right? In Revelation 20, 21 or 22. It's one of those. Just read all three of them for your homework. But we see that the city of God, the city comes out of the sky, and it is pure gold. It is just like this. And interestingly enough, you see here, this it says the inner sanctuary was 20 cubits long, 20 cubits wide, and 20 cubits high. So it's a cube. The length, the width, and the height are exactly the same. And we see here with the city of God that comes out of the sky, it is exactly the same. Not the same units, but it is exactly the length, the width, and the height are exactly the same, right? And in pure gold. And in this instance, the pure gold is so pure that it's transparent. Okay. So, anyway, I just want you to see the link, right? The link that Solomon is building for God here on earth, and then what God does at the final end when everything is done, where we will dwell for eternity is going to be in a house of pure gold, with length, width, and height the same. All right. So, verse 23. In the inner sanctuary, he made two cherubim of olive wood, each 10 cubits high. So, 10, remember, cubit is 18 inches. So, this is like 15 feet. Two cherubim, which are 15 feet high, right? Uh, and cherubim was like this winged creature, right? If you remember from the description of the temple, I mean the tent of meeting, it had six wings, right? The cherubim had six wings. One covered the body, one they flew with, and one they, kind of were pointing to each other, right? So on the Ark of the Covenant, you had the cherubim and their wings were kind of pointing to each other. So anyway, we see here that he recreates this, right? So verse 24, 5 cubits was the length of one wing of the cherub, and 5 cubits the length of the other wing of the cherub. It was 10 cubits from the tip of one wing to the tip of the other. The other cherub also measured 10 cubits. Both cherubim had the same measure and the same form. The height of one cherub was 10 cubits, and so was that of the other cherub. All right. He put the cherubim in the innermost part of the house, and the wings of the cherubim were spread out so that a wing of one touched the one wall, and a wing of the other cherub touched the other wall. Their other wings touched each other in the middle of the house. And he overlaid the cherubim with gold all around. So you see this. He's building the cherubim almost as a replica of the cherubim that are on the ark, right? So when the ark goes inside, it's like the cherubim are surrounding the ark, which have cherubim on the ark, right? So you kind of see this kind of cool thing. And I'm hoping I'm giving you a picture of it. If you have any any questions about what that looks like, you can I will drop it in the notes, some links to what the pictures look like, what the cherubim would have looked like based on the description, and then maybe that'll give you a better idea. But I just want you to just kind of get the grandeur of this house that Solomon's building. All right. And so remember, he built them out of wood. And then now in verse 28, he overlaid the cherubim with gold. And so around all the walls of the house, he carved engraved figures of cherubim and palm trees and open flowers in the inner and outer rooms. The floor of the house he overlaid with gold in the inner and outer rooms. For the entrance of the to the inner sanctuary, he made doors of olive wood. The lintel and the doorposts were five-sided, right? And the lintel, or the pillar of the archway, right, which is the lintel. He covered the two doors of olive wood with carvings of cherubim, palm trees, and open flowers. He overlaid them with gold and spread gold on the cherubim and on the palm trees. So he made for the entrance to the nave doorposts of olive wood in the form of a square, and two doors of cypress wood. The two leaves of the one door were folding, and the two leaves of the other door were folding. And on them he carved cherubim and palm trees and open flowers, and he overlaid them with gold, evenly applied on the carved work. He built the inner court with 3 courses of cut stone and 1 course of cedar beams. In the 4th year, the foundation of the house of the Lord was laid in the month of Zeb. And in the 11th year, in the month of Bul, which is the 8th month, the house was finished in all its parts. And according to all the specifications, he was 7 years in building it. And I know I went a little bit over, but I wanted to get to that part because it's interesting that it took him 7 years to complete the building of the house. We know in the biblical numerology, the 7 is a number of completion. And so therefore we see that Solomon not only completed it in 7 years, but the house was complete. Right. And so this is like God's stamp of approval saying, yes, this is the house that I wanted built. This is the house that you built for me. This is the house that I promised David that you would build. And the 7 years is the 7 years of completion, or some people say perfection, that is to be stamped onto this house. So we see that this house was great. It was glorious. It's all gold. I mean, I would have loved to seen it. But yeah. So we see Solomon finishes it, and it takes him 7 years. So we're going to jump into First Kings chapter 7 the next time. I hope you learned something this time. And thank you for joining me. If you have any questions or any comments, feel free to drop them into the chat. If you are on YouTube, also please give me a like and subscribe. That really helps me out. And I'll look forward to seeing and or hearing, or just knowing you're here on the next Bible stroll. And until then, have a great evening. Love y'all. Take care. All right. Bye.